Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dominic. I am here on behalf of myself and Neil for DW Live episode 31, where today we're going to be joined by Josh King. However, in the background, Facebook appears to be killing us. We have two events that don't appear to be working, and we're currently not able to connect to our audience on Facebook. So, for those of you on YouTube, for those of you on LinkedIn, and for those of you on Twitter, can you just bear with us a couple of minutes while Neil and I try and get this resolved, try and get our audience connected on Facebook, and we'll be right with you. Just bear with us and we will be back. We'll see you very shortly. Who?
Hello, Delegate Wranglers. So sorry we are late. We had a few technical hitches, isn't that right, Dom?
Facebook are making permanent changes to the platform at the moment. The event that you created last week doesn't appear to have worked, and then we tried to do it another way and that didn't work, so we've had to refresh everything. But we do appear to be live now, and we have got people watching. So those of you on Facebook, I did put an announcement out just now that we're going to be late. Those of you on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter, apologies for the delay, but we really wanted to make sure that we got the Facebook audience connected as well. After all, that's where Delegate Wranglers originates from. So we are now live. And happy Monday to you all. Good afternoon.
How are you all? How are you, Dom? You okay? Apart from a last-minute stress just now.
There's always something. No, all good. All good. It's been a good weekend. We've got beautiful weather again, and looking forward to this week. So we've got a lot going on.
Yes. So without any further ado, I'm going to rattle through it. So I am delighted to have Josh King on with us today with a talk entitled Navigating Your Way Through the Maze of Virtual Events, which is going to be really, really exciting. Josh works for EMC3. They basically do events for large clients all over the world. They've adapted amazingly well to this virtual world that we're all kind of living in at the moment. So going to be really, really good to hear about his tales of that, and some great tips and things to do, and just exactly what they've done. Hopefully you've got some good take homes there for you guys as well. So yes, it's going to be good, Dom, isn't it?
Yes, navigating your way through the maze of virtual events seems to be something that we are doing regularly. And having seen a couple of Josh's slides just now, I think this is going to resonate with quite a lot of people who are working in this world at the moment.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as usual, I think we are live on everything as usual, Dom.
Yeah,
Facebook,
we're live
LinkedIn.
on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and we are now working on Facebook as well, which is great. So we are all good.
So I am gonna just check that YouTube is working. Yes, it is. Hello, guys. Hello, 21 people in the YouTube watching us. Really grateful for you to check us out. And yeah, sorry about that slight delay. Thanks for hanging with us. So, Dom, I don't know if you've got it queued up, but we have got a really good What Caught Our Eye this week, haven't we?
We do. Do you want to tell us about it, Neil?
Yes, it's friend of the show and friend of me and Diane, the fantastic Chrissy Bray.
Friend of everybody.
Friend of everybody, yeah. She is like Mrs. DW. She hosts, a lot of our events. She's amazing. She does such a fantastic job. So she posted an amazing video in the Supplier Hour this week. So we thought we'd showcase it and show you, this is just a tiny bit of the things that Chrissy does because she's amazing.
Okay, so this is our What's Caught Our Eye this week.
Please welcome Chrissy Bray. Who is ready to have fun tonight? I said, who's ready to have fun tonight? Okay, I need to take you to a vote. Do I give the points here? Or do I give the points here? There can only be one winner tonight. So please, without further ado, where are Bluefield Inc. You came last.
When I get that feeling, I want sexual feeling.
Merry Christmas to everybody! Woo! Clock is ticking. This is it, guys. Your first meetings. You've got 30 over the next 2 days. I can ask one more question, or we can have a dance-off.
Dance-off!
Dance-off! Welcome! We're about to go to Ibiza. All in favour say aye.
Hi. Good evening. It is so great to have you all here.
Who might you be going for tonight?
Holland!
Okay, just in case we didn't hear it the first time.
Alright, this is it. Welcome to the Bear Grylls Survival Race. You need to stretch. You need to be ready. You need to get the heart pumping.
Give yourself a round of applause. Come on! I want to see you wave your glow sticks in the air. I want to see you out there tonight.
Welcome to the Cineworld 4DX Extreme Cinema Experience.
It is a stunning day for the second year of Red Bull's Flying Wicket.
There you go, guys. I'm sure you enjoyed that. Chrissy is just amazing. So much energy, gets the crowd going. I mean, in real life events or online events, we've worked with her both times. She's amazing. Hiya, Chrissy, if you're watching. I know you are, so hope you're okay.
She is. Well, actually, she was. I don't know if she is. She was at the beginning. But I love Chrissy.
She's here. No, I can see her in the chat room. She's there. She's there. She's there.
Nice to see you, Chrissy.
So, Dom, speaking of the chat room, shall we give a few quick shout outs?
Yes. Let's just pick a few because my phone won't let me scroll back. The first one I saw was from Murdo. Good afternoon, Murdo. Nice to see you. Haven't seen you on here for a while, so nice to have you back. Anika, as always, nice to have you back, Anika.
Hi, Anika.
Some weird guy, Neil. Don't know. Mandeep Singh, good afternoon, Mandeep. How are you? Good afternoon, Dom, Neil, and Josh, and everybody. Felicity Berry and Chrissy, she also says hello. What have you got on YouTube, Neil?
No one said hello yet, but we got 31 people watching. So come on, guys, don't be shy.
Please say hello. Where you're watching from, because it does make a difference, and it's nice to be able to say hello to people.
Yes, it is. Anyway, so just to give you a quick rundown, so we're going to talk to Josh. We are then later on today, we'll post up the wrap up with any links to any things that we talk about in the show, including a full replay of the show. And then for all you people who are subscribed to the DW Live Hive, that's over 500 of you, by the way. Thank you. You get a bit of bonus extra content where me and Josh will record something later on, and you guys will get to see that. So, guys, if you're not already subscribed, please make sure you do.
Absolutely. I am just going to say, I'm just going to apologize again because I've just gone onto LinkedIn and I can see there's a load of people on there that were watching right at the beginning saying, "Oh, we can't see anything on Facebook." No, you couldn't see anything on Facebook at the beginning. Really sorry. There was a technical issue with Facebook Live again. But Felicity Berry, you said hello. Fiona McGillivray says hi. Anika was over there to begin with. Denise Cunningham was over there. Johanna Smeekle, she's in Vienna again. So there were loads of people over on LinkedIn. So thank you for picking up and being with us from the outset.
Cool.
Nice to see
All
you.
we need is Instagram. If only Instagram will play ball, we'd have them as well, Tom.
It's such a shame we can't do that, but one day.
Same company as Facebook as well. I don't understand. But anyway, so without any further ado, should we get into it? I'm going to introduce you to Josh King, who's the head of business development at EMC. I always think, is that how you, Josh, first of all, hello, how are you?
Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm all right. Is that how you say it, EMC3, or do you say EMC cubed? I don't know what.
Yes, no, EMC3, so it stands for every moment counts. And then we create experiences around 3 key touch points, so people, spaces, and messaging. So that's sort of the impetus behind the name. There
you go. You solved the problem for me. It's been stressing me out all day. That I know the answer, but when something comes into your head and you start thinking, "Oh my God, what am I going to say the wrong thing?" Anyway, so how are you, mate? How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I think I know we touched upon it earlier, but a bit dubious over what Boris's announcement is going to be tomorrow. So I think this is a very hot topic right now. Virtual events are here to stay. So really pleased to be here though.
Fantastic. Okay, Josh, well, without any further ado, because I know we're running a little bit late, I will let you get into it. I know you've got a few slides and things to show and you're going to talk to us. So guys, any questions that you've got for Josh as we go along, please just send them in and we'll do our best to answer them.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, thanks so much, Neil. Absolutely. Hello to everyone in the group. Absolutely love the Delegate Wranglers group. Great place. You can learn so much and get so many great queries solved there. So yeah, super happy to be here talking about something which I'm really, really passionate about, virtual events. So some of you are probably wondering who this strange looking man with funny haircut is. So I'm Josh King. I'm head of business development at EMC3, and we're a full service creative communications agency. We've spent the last 6 months producing in excess of 40 virtual events of all shapes and sizes, everything from virtual cooking masterclasses with celebrity chefs to much larger multi-day virtual conferences for massive tech companies. So it's a space that we understand very, very well. And lots of people are still finding it quite unfamiliar territory. So what I want to do is just share some of our key learnings and hopefully try and help you understand the virtual space a little bit better. So we're going to be covering what a virtual event is, looking at the current landscape and state of affairs, identifying some of the most common challenges, providing some solutions to those challenges, and then we're going to look ahead very, very briefly to the future. So here we have two of my favorite definitions of what a virtual event actually is. I particularly like the Perform Media outline here. You know, a virtual event allows a dispersed online audience with common interests to share in a common experience. So already we're starting to touch upon, you know, that sense of a community, an online community. So important, I think. And then if we look at the current landscape, so how the world has transformed. So the pandemic, the coronavirus outbreak, essentially accelerated the digital transformation across many industries, and none have been more so affected than the events industry, of course. But if we just look at the current state of affairs, so Zoom usage has jumped from 10 million users per day to over 200 million users per day.
Wow.
So, it's incredible when you think about that. And it just, this highlights a couple of key things: that businesses everywhere are hosting webinars or virtual events, but also it really sort of highlights the level of Zoom fatigue that's about. And I'm not sure about you guys, but Zoom fatigue is a very, very real thing. So, so for us as virtual event planners, we have to always be considering how can we alleviate, the despondency that's associated with virtual events. Another one of my favorites, stats by Visibo, outlines that 93% of event marketers plan to invest in virtual events moving forward. So they're here to stay, right? Whether it's fully virtual or hybrid, dependent on the current legislation, it is definitely something that's here to stay, because of course you've got access to a much wider audience when you amplify your messaging online. But interestingly, to sort of contrast that, just 40% of event marketers and planners say they've been they've been unable to organise a successful virtual event this year. So there's a clear disconnect there. It's saying that, pretty much all of them, 93% say they're going to be investing in this, but most of them are saying that they've been unable to create a virtual experience that drives return on investment. So we have to start looking at sort of the disconnect that's there and the biggest challenges. So,
Josh, I just want to jump in. Why do you think that is? Because I saw a figure. It was slightly slightly lower than that, but I saw a figure along the same lines the other day. And when you've got over 90% of people saying they're going to invest in virtual events, but 40-ish%, but certainly under 50%, haven't been able to. Where is that going wrong?
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a few things that come into the equation, but part of it's lack of technical knowledge and understanding, which is called out here. And also something that we're going to touch on slightly later, but initially I feel like people weren't putting enough time, money or resources, and definitely not dedicating a large enough team, as I know you're very familiar with, to creating virtual events. And at the moment, there's a lot of webinar white noise. So if you want to drive return on investment and cut through that static and get great attendees to your event, keep your sponsors happy if you've got sponsors, reduce your attrition rate, so maintain that engagement throughout the whole virtual experience, then you have to look at things like the positioning of the events, what value you're giving to the attendees. People are super busy. Most businesses are still trying to survive in a new environment. So I think asking people to dedicate their time to attend a virtual event, there has to be real significant value there, even more so than ever before. So, looking at things like having a clear vision, clear purpose, clear value, adding clear value to the attendees is more important than ever before. And then I would say one of the other biggest, failures or most common mistakes is a lack of investment or a lack of focus in the pre-event marketing and post-event marketing. And I know that this will resonate with you, Dom. It's some clients come to us and say they want to do a massive virtual event in sort of 2 weeks' time, and it's like, well, you have to start thinking about the event marketing side of things. So it's just about helping to manage people's expectations. So what would you say?
to the reason why they're not happening?
Yeah.
You know, I'm really surprised how many, and even if I just take freelancers, I'm really surprised how few how many freelancers are still out there that haven't tried to make the step into the virtual world at the moment, and haven't spent the time looking at the technology and understanding it. And actually, that one line you've got there, the 21% lack of tech knowledge, I don't think that's just event marketers. I think that's across the board with freelance event organizers as well. I don't think there are some people that have either had the desire or understood that virtual events aren't going anywhere now. It's not just that we're not just in a virtual world for a few months while Corona passes. Virtual events aren't going anywhere now. And where I've seen the biggest successes with people, whether that's in event marketers, event organizers, or freelance event managers, is where they, from the outset at the beginning, recognized that there was a huge opportunity around this. It wasn't actually all doom and gloom. And they just went all out on understanding what the platforms did, how they worked, where they could help some clients and not others. But it took a huge amount of time, really, to dedicate to that process. And in the absence of having anything else to do, probably those that are doing it better now are those that spent the time right at the beginning, and those that are taking events forward through for clients now are those that put the time in.
Definitely, I totally agree with that. And also, I think naturally people have this sort of fear of change. It became so apparent at the beginning of this. I think sort of January, February time, we started researching, trialing, testing every platform under the sun, and then shortlisting, 7, 8, 9, 10 that we wanted to specialize in, that we thought would work really well, because we've worked very closely.
Having done that though, Josh, like, this is a moving feast at the moment. Like, I don't know about you, but literally every week now, a client will still surprise us by suggesting another virtual event platform that we didn't know about last week. There's constantly, it's just, I'm amazed that they're still coming out, but they are still coming.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's one of the points that we're going to touch on later, but I still think that the technology is trying to catch up with the demand. By nature, our industry is so creative, and the technology is still not quite there. And I do think as we look ahead to the future, the platforms are going to become more reminiscent of sort of video games, and they'll become far more immersive and engaging. Of course, that won't be for all clients. Some people love avatar-based solutions, but some much prefer your standard video-based solutions. And again, that's one of the key things. There's no right answer. You and I were laughing previously, but when someone asks you, what's the best virtual event platform on the market? It's like asking, what's the best venue? And it's like, they're different platforms are suitable to different styles of event. And that's why having your vision about what you're trying to achieve, what that looks like, is so important before you even start considering what platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know about you, but I firmly came to the conclusion a while ago that there actually isn't a perfect platform out there. I think you have to, in every instance of every production that we've worked on, the client has had to make a sacrifice over a feature or a functionality in some way, shape, or form. It was, we wanted this, but we couldn't get that, but we did get that, so we went there. Or we wanted that, but we couldn't get it on there, so we went there and we got that instead. There hasn't been a single example, without exception, of a client saying, we've chosen that platform and it does everything that we wanted it to do.
No, and I think that's the only thing I can compare it to is a venue search almost, and it's just like,
I was just going to say, a venue can be the same, can't it? It doesn't always tick every single box that you want, so it's a matter of adapting. Josh, I'm just going to jump in there quick. Just had a question from Helen Lowry in the group. Do you think the amount of white noise in the virtual market is hindering our education to clients who are at present still just postponing for a second time now? So basically, do we think there's just so much going on out there, it's actually stopping that?
So I'm of the probably unpopular opinion that running a bad virtual event or a bad webinar can actually be more damaging to a brand than good, to be honest. So sometimes, and we've recommended this for clients in the past, but get your vision correct and the positioning of what you want for the event, and delve into all of those bits, and we'll touch upon that process slightly later, and adopt this digital first mindset, but look for quality over quantity, because that will make you stand out instantly. There's such a bad quality of virtual events and webinars out there at the moment that I think if you slow down, realign, reassess, and produce something that's very, very well thought out, you create those virtual online touch points for delegates, just as we would in the real world. But adopt this digital first mindset. I don't think a lot of people understand, but you shouldn't directly try and replicate what you would for a live event in the virtual world, because it just doesn't work that way. We touch upon things like Zoom fatigue and people's attention spans. You need to play with things such as the session lengths, the session designs. Otherwise, your drop-off rate is just going to be so high. So
definitely making sure people have a break as well, a bit of a screen break.
Exactly.
Seen some of them where they're on for hours and then it's just too long.
Yeah, and this kind of links back in with the session we did with Sasha a few weeks ago. Neil, this whole thing around event design, it's so important, and again, we're talking about navigating a way through the maze of virtual events today, and it's not necessarily directly related. However, the maze of virtual events is such that you have to consider your event design, and you're building in breaks not just for attendees and their screen time away from their screens, but actually you're building in time for the production team to just step back from the whole thing, gather thoughts, and make sure the whole thing can continue moving forward. Because one thing is for certain, these don't just come together, and I'm sure Josh would back me up on this. These don't just come together. Virtual events are difficult to produce, they're difficult to manage, and it's a totally different beast to the difficulties of running a live event. But that event design is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm conscious of time, so what I'm going to do is we're going to focus on the three key challenges.
Yes.
Engagement being one of them, just because you're so right. Totally agree with what Dom's saying, but the production quality is one of the biggest ways that you can improve engagement and reduce drop-off rates at virtual events. So whether that's dependent, of course, on the current state of affairs in terms of what the government outlines you can and cannot do, but if you can run almost more of a hybrid event where you have people in a studio, perhaps a small audience, but if not, that you can even have speakers stood up, perhaps a stage set in the background. It really enhancing the production quality is a great way to improve engagement at these events. If you can't do that, even doing things like sending out speaker ready kits, so ring lights, improved microphones, high quality webcams, having a green room area backstage where you can check Wi-Fi connection, sound, lighting to make sure that the production is as high quality as possible, add the lower thirds, animations. So focusing on all of those bits to really improve the quality is naturally going to improve engagement. One of the things that Neil and Dom are doing fantastically, the polling or the gamification at some of these virtual events. So actually making a two-way interactive experience, adding some dynamism to the experience, actually asking the audience the burning questions that they have. Great way to improve engagement. Speakers and entertainment. So a few of our events, we've had yoga sessions in the morning and HIIT workouts with trainers during the lunch break. Optional, of course, because some people are just going to want to go and make a cup of tea. Others, might want to stay there and exercise, mental health, well-being. These are all incredible things that if you can touch upon in the virtual world, particularly as life's becoming increasingly isolated, it's fantastic. And of course, great speakers. The better the content in the speakers, the better the engagement is going to be. And again, making the speaker choice can even be brought into the pre-event engagement process. So start that dialogue with your community in the run-up to the event. Who would you want to hear from? Of course, there's going to be some speakers that you're already going to have. Actually find out what do they want to talk about and who do they want to hear from. So
send any questions in, things like that. Yeah, it's a really good idea.
Then what Dom's saying, so playing with the session lengths and session designs. If you're going to do a full day or 2-day virtual event, then if you need to build in networking breaks or time to go explore sponsor areas, definitely some of these, the HIIT workouts, just downtime in the agenda. The session design, so definitely mix up keynotes, panels. And again, one of the big things here that I've not touched upon is virtual speaker coaching. So we work with hundreds of great speakers. but some who have been amazing at live events have perhaps struggled when it comes to virtual. And that's because you're not getting that feedback necessarily, depending on which platform.
We actually were talking about this last week with Sam Allen, who's an MC and presenter, and she was saying the same thing. It's quite difficult when you're not getting the feedback. It's a total different ball game, isn't it? Really,
it's different for MCs and it's different for and it's different for speakers as well. Josh, I'm just going to go back because you mentioned speakers particularly, and one of the things that we're seeing, especially we did a 3-day event, a 2-stream 3-day event at the back end of last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and they were the organizers of that, by everyone across the board, was really very well complimented on the quality of the speakers that they had. And one of the things that this has done, it's not the first time I've heard that, because one of the things that this whole situation has done is it's opened up opportunities to bring in speakers that you might not have been able to either get or afford. Because rather than booking for a day, 2 days, or 3 days, and building in travel and all of those associated costs, you're now booking speakers for an hour or two, and that's much easier for them to do, makes them much more willing to do it in some instances. So I would say when you're planning your speakers, think big, aim high and think big on these, because the opportunities to bring in speakers that you might not get otherwise right now are huge, and especially the longer this goes on, the more that's going to be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So Dom and his team at EMC3, they're dedicated to speaker management. So they've worked with Michelle Obama, Serena Williams, Anna Kendrick. But we had Trevor Noah speak. So ServiceNow ran a virtual event, and then we partnered with a company called Acorio. So they hosted a virtual after party as one of the sponsors, which we'll touch upon virtual sponsorship slightly later. And some of these big name speakers are taking 40 to 50% reduction in their fees because it is virtual, and it's for all of those points that you mentioned.
Great for sustainability as well. Really good. Another flight you don't need to book.
Yeah, exactly. And even just like carefully curating those sessions. So perhaps we're talking about positioning and how much white noise there is, but matchmaking different speakers on panels who perhaps have contrasting points of view, because that's always interesting. Healthy debate is always something as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully there's some good tips there. So now we'll touch upon sort of lack of technical knowledge. So I think as we alluded to earlier, there are literally hundreds of platforms, and new ones are popping up every day. And so here are some of the most popular ones. We've worked with 90% of these platforms on this list, and I think one of the key things to understand is that there's no perfect platform, as we talked about earlier. And I think one of the things that we've started offering as a business is, so obviously we're offering free virtual and hybrid event consultations. And when people come to us with briefs, we'll just tell them what the best platform is based on our knowledge and understanding. Because as I say, we've used a plethora of different platforms, and the team are very, very experienced at it. So we've just spent this time trying to help people, essentially. And because that way, word of mouth recommendations always a fantastic way to grow a business. So just trying to help people, and that's what we've been trying to do, even if there's not been sort of money to be made for us. Just even recommending, different clients to the right platform is, and I think that's what us as an industry we've had to do.
Sorry, just go back to that slide, because the thing I find amazing about that one is that just a couple of months ago, you wouldn't have seen Hopin on that list. Say a couple of months, you certainly wouldn't have seen them 6 or 7 months ago, because they were so new. But the very fact that I think it says 9%. That's a huge percentage in 6 months. So you really understand the scale of growth that platforms have gone through. And that 10 to 200 million, I think there was another estimate that Zoom had seen 350 million at that absolute peak. But that's the kind of scale of an uptake that platforms have seen. And that's really hard from their side technically to manage. But it shows just how much demand is there.
Well, I also think in terms of the lack of technical knowledge, so we've worked very closely with Hopin, and they were wanting to partner with us because they wanted to work with people that had planned events. And a lot of these guys, they're fantastic in terms of tech and creating a platform. In terms of virtual event delivery or just adopting the mindset of event planners. They just didn't have that skill set in-house. So working collaboratively, they've all been able to improve their platforms as well. But one thing is, sorry, Karen?
Go on, Josh. I just got a question.
I was just going to say, so at the moment, the technology is definitely still playing catch up to what is, we're all very, very creative by nature. So I think the tech's getting there and it is getting better and better, and they are listening to the feedback. But I still think there's somewhat of a way to go.
Yeah, I was just going to ask a question to both of you, actually. Start with you first, Josh. So what happens when a client comes to you and says, I've got to deal with, we've got to deal with a platform we'd like you to use on our behalf, and you've had bad experiences of it? Are they kind of listening to you to say, maybe that's not the best, or you're having to work with them? Dom's smiling away there in the background. I can see him.
No, so I think for us, it's just been about trying to educate people before they get to that point, and that's why we've been offering it free platform matchmaking almost, and it's because that's the worst scenario you can be in. If a client comes to you and that platform perhaps isn't just it might not be that the platform's not the platform might not be terrible, but it potentially could not be the right platform for that event. So that they might have someone in their office, if it's a big tech company or a massive corporate company, and someone in their office might have used it and it was awesome for one style of event. However, for the type of event that they're trying to produce, it's just not the right platform. So I think that it takes us nicely onto the next slide, which is before you even start, before you choose a platform, what are the key considerations? So I know that we were all talking about this just prior to getting on the call, but first of all, what are you trying to accomplish? So are you trying to increase sales? Is it trying to increase brand awareness? Is there going to be workshops? Is it going to be training? Is it going to be a very dynamic experience, or is it going to be a more linear experience? So really getting that vision clear from the outset, so important. And then we look at sort of the positioning. So what problems are we solving for attendees? We've mentioned how much webinar white noise there is at the moment. So in terms of positioning, there has to be something differentiating your virtual event or webinar. Okay, so that's again, because there's a lot of repeated content. So having sort of a USP to your virtual event or webinar is crucial. Timelines, that's always going to affect what platform you use. Some platforms are sort of plug and play. Others are you can literally create a fully immersive world which people can explore. So one's going to take slightly longer than the other. So bearing in mind timelines, of course, budget, of course, is a massive one. The types of content you're going to be sharing. What's your virtual event marketing plan going to look like? So some of these platforms have things like your registration built in, your email marketing built in, which is great for analytics and the data that you can pull if it is more of a holistic solution. Others, other companies, they have an email marketing system that they like to use, whether it's HubSpot or Marketo. So it's slightly more disjointed approach. So then you need someone to pull that information together. How are you going to register these attendees? What data do you want to capture? Do you want them recorded? And the big one, budget. That's always going to factor what platforms you're able
First question,
to use.
isn't it? First question, that normally, Josh, I think.
Yeah, I know. I'll try to be a bit softer. So the other big thing, there's a real disconnect on, when the pandemic struck. Unfortunately, lots and lots of marketers, event planners all over the world, they lost their jobs and marketing budgets were slashed quite heavily. And so I think what people were trying to do in some cases were produce these massive virtual events and virtual programs just being produced by one or two people. And that's never say I'm going to put together a 1,000-person conference, in 6 weeks and just leave it down to 2 people, because the level of complexity that's
involved in it. Yeah,
exactly. So I just want to outline some of the roles and responsibilities that are key, particularly in the bigger virtual events that we're looking at. So you're going to have your virtual event manager or the person that's the orchestrator, depending on the size of the program as well. they could have a couple of people working in their team under them. A design manager, of course, who's going to help with all the aesthetics, help with all the pre-event, post-event marketing comms as well. Depending on it, they could help with some of the design of the virtual platform. Your comms manager or your copywriter to help with all of the copy for the event. Attendee support, which is a big one. A lot of people still aren't that tech savvy, so providing that attendee support on the day live if you can, absolutely fantastic. The technical support, so the people that running your streams, and they should be working so closely with the virtual event manager. They should almost be working as one. Host or MC, so we touched upon it earlier. There's some great guys out there. Shout out Sam from Song Revision, one of the best that I've seen at adding energy to a lot of virtual events. Song Revision team, they're great hosts, but adding hosts or speakers to a virtual event that bring that energy and add a vibrancy to the experience, so important, and also that could get the best out of, say, panels and stuff. So really useful with those people who have experience. Moderators, of course, the virtual speaker coaches. So that's one thing that Dom in our team and his team have been doing, is providing that virtual speaker coaching training for people. You get a lot of the C-suite from big corporates that they're fantastic at speaking on stage, but when it comes to virtual events, it's quite flat. So just providing some top tips for them. And then, of course, sponsorship. So that was one of the biggest frustrations we've seen. Sponsors still don't feel like they're getting paid for money from virtual events. So having someone that's dedicated to that and really understands how to amplify and enhance the sponsor experience of virtual events, so important. So as we can see even here, trying to even get two people to cover all of these jobs, lunacy almost. So it's important to dedicate sufficient resources if you want to create a virtual experience which is going to be as good as possible.
Agreed.
So we'll touch upon the sponsorship side of things as well. So how can we improve the sponsor experience? That was third on the list as sort of the biggest frustrations. Exposure in the pre-event comms, so the email marketing or the promo videos for the event, if you have those for the virtual experience. So providing that. Video advertisement sections, so between your sessions, you can actually give sponsors some exposure there. Now, scrolling marquees, so this could be the animations rolling at the bottom of the screen as well. So at certain points of sessions, or when you have your host on, for instance. So again, that timing just between the sessions, if you've got lots of the virtual events we're working on at the moment, they have 16, 17, 1800 attendees. The team are producing a 1700 person event on Hopin today for a non-profit called Their World, working in collaboration with the United Nations. So when you've got that many people watching, there's a huge opportunity for exposure and sponsors here. So branded backdrops, again, very easy one. Virtual sponsor booths, so depending on the software that you're using, you can sometimes offer virtual sponsor booths where they can actually have live people manning their stands as well, so they can start building those relationships with attendees, giving them presentations.
I'm just going to jump in on that one particularly, Josh, because again, that's a real platform specific issue. The sponsor booths and the level of interaction that you can have between sponsors and attendees is so platform specific. And if your event is very reliant on your sponsorship, that put time and effort into that, because from everything that I've seen, certainly on some of the lower to mid-range platforms, some of that isn't great. Some of that interactivity between sponsor and attendee isn't great. And if your reliance is on that to generate the revenue for your event, then go find that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it says virtual good bags, but it should say virtual goodie bags as well. Another great way to give some exposure to the sponsors. Virtual after parties and events as well. So letting them have spin-off events in the evening following your event as well that you're connected with, and then exposure in the post-event comms, so wrap-up videos, post-event emails, and then the other big thing, videos on demand as well, and then really giving them the rich data. So who who engaged. So this, what they really want is that rich data from the experience. And it seems like that's where there's quite a large disconnect at the moment as well. A lot of the platforms aren't providing that data, or if they are, as Don mentioned, they could be quite expensive. So, and you can see from even just here, with the number of moving parts there are, you can see that this could pretty much be a full-time job if your event's big enough, the sponsorship, the sponsor management side of things. So don't underestimate how much time is going to be needed for these much larger programs.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just got a couple of quick questions, Josh, if you don't mind me interrupting. One from Amy in the chat room. What would you say is the optimal session time length before a break? I guess I would say, it's a good idea to always mix it up, but I don't know what your feelings is on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say sort of main stage, I wouldn't make it any longer than 45 minutes. And then, as you say, for breakouts, you can really play about with the timing for those. 20 minutes is quite nice, but the session design, that's the best thing. And it's going to be different as well for different attendee demographics. So look at the data you have from previous events and start capturing that. And look at things like drop-off rates. Some platforms will be able to tell you. So this is a good.
I'm just going to ask you that. What's a drop-off rate? From lunch breaks and coffee breaks and things like that, or screen breaks. Do you find, and you, Dom, as well? Do you find a lot of people drop off and don't come back?
Funny, I actually had this conversation this morning with a client who's been looking at that quite interestingly, because they were seeing quite a lot of drop-off rate from session 1 to session 2, for example, an event that we did, I think it was the end of end of July. But actually, now they've looked at the data. What was happening is people were dropping off after maybe 1 or 2 sessions, but they've seen now they've got the whole event info, that they were then coming back. And I think if you wrap the whole thing together, they think they probably got about a 20% drop-off rate from their event.
Right. Okay. Yeah. What's your experience of it, Josh?
I think for us, with the longer programs, we were seeing quite a lot of people could drop off before lunch, and that was why we started incorporating activities into it, or shortening the day entirely and then ending, so doing much more concise event as a whole, and then doing an activity afterwards in the evening. So that you just have to adopt that digital first mindset that we talked about earlier, and really focus on the engagement, whether that be through hosts, speakers, entertainment, because people's time is valuable and people's time is precious, and more so now than ever before. The competition's high for people's attention right now. So if you just step back, slow down, and spend some time on really crafting the virtual experience, really crafting your comms, amplifying your messaging online, then it's quite a simple way to cut through the static.
Yeah.
The answer to almost every question, though, is it's very much content specific, and it's very much down to the objective.
Yeah, well, and that's why getting that vision clear from the outset, I'm sure you've experienced this, but sometimes the lack of alignment internally inside companies that we engage with. So the sales director's vision totally differs from the marketing director's differs from the CEO. And unless from the outset you're all aligned and you've at least got some level of agreement on what you're trying to achieve, what that should look like, what are the KPIs, what are those key performance indicators, what looks like a great virtual experience to us. And unless you're all aligned from that, you're never going to please all parties. So spending some time, it's very much a strategically driven approach, adopting that mindset from the outset, again, focus on digital first, then it becomes far more simplistic to keep everyone happy. And don't have a long list of key performance indicators and objectives. Don't try and achieve 25 different things with one virtual experience. Compartmentalize your approach. Focus on 2, 3, 4 key goals, and then try to achieve those, then move on to the next one. And as your experience gets better, focus on the attendee feedback very, very carefully. And that way you can perfect your own strategy that will work for you.
Yeah.
Cool.
So as we look ahead to the future, very, very quickly, totally dependent on the government legislation right now, but there's definitely going to be this emergence of hybrid events. So you're going to see more and more people, perhaps with smaller studios at some point. Who knows whether or not we are going to go back on something reminiscent of a lockdown. But the key is digital's here to stay. People have seen the exposure you can get and the number of attendees you can get. So hybrid events, well, and virtual for the time being, it's here to stay. So it's so important that stop resisting change, embrace the change, and just push on with it. The digital first mindset, you need to be considering that now. So there's a lot of people who have been using fantastic virtual events platforms. Some of the great solutions now are going to be the app-based and desktop-based solutions, because that way you've got the continuity of experience throughout. So delegates can either go through their laptop or through their mobile device, and that just means that there's not a disconnect between the experience that people are receiving if they go to the live event or if they choose just to interact digitally. Then there needs to be that continuity of experience, otherwise it starts causing real differences in the experience.
One thing we talked about, or we've discussed over the last few weeks, is how once we get to be able to go back to real events, or in real life, if you like, that we can reward people for going to those events as well, so that if you go actually attend an event, there's a reason to actually go, that you're getting something extra, if you like, because I think we still want the live events to come back. We all want that as well. But I agree with you as well, as there's no point to miss out on all this extra reach that you can get with digital as well.
Yeah, of course. And whether that's sort of really nice swag bags at the event or bits and bobs like that. And I think us as an industry, we have to really adopt and push on. So totally dependent, but we need to be setting an example and going to these events. And if we want our industry that we all know and love so much, then we have to be setting an example, because at the moment there's a lack of consumer confidence or attendee confidence. And until there's that paradigm shift that people feel comfortable again, then we're going to continue to struggle. So it's so important that, again, we're setting examples, putting a framework in place.
Totally.
But again, the things like the testing, they're getting testing where you can get the results quicker and quicker these days. So it's important to be leveraging those. And of course, I think as we look ahead to the future as well, at live events, things like COVID compliance marshals and officers, they're going to be a natural addition that are going to become an essential part of our events moving forward. And finally, as we look ahead to the future, so touched upon it earlier, but enhanced technology. So there's some good platforms now, but they've definitely not caught up with our expectations, our levels of creativity. I think as we move forward, they're going to be far more reminiscent of what a video game is. And it would be fantastic for us, because then we can really start adopting this immersive storytelling that we all know and love in the live events.
Which is very similar, Neil. That's the kind of platform, you have to forgive me because I can't remember his name, but the guy from Sine Wave that we had on a number of weeks ago when we did the gamification.
Oh, yeah.
Very much going down that route of avatar or video game experience.
Virtual world,
Facebook,
is that?
Sorry?
Have you seen the new Facebook? Have you seen the Facebook event? I can't remember what it's called, but Facebook have just launched something as well with the Oculus in conjunction with Oculus. The virtual headset.
Yeah, the VR glove.
VR thing. But Facebook have actually just launched something, so we're going to be having a Sunday night blog. One of the group actually went and attended this virtual event. Facebook, so I'll report that back to you. But that looked quite interesting as well. That was all avatars.
Yeah, I think a really interesting platform that they're still evolving at the moment, but it's called Verbella. So they're based out of San Fran, obviously the home of most great technology companies. But it is a fully immersive environment where you can create your own worlds. And it is avatar. You create your own avatar. So definitely one, and I'll share the link to the platform, because you can
let me know afterwards.
So I'll send the links around along with this deck and sort of a reading list about where a lot of the data came from. And I think for me, just to end on, and it's one of my favorite acronyms essentially, because it's trying to adopt this mindset about what's the future, always looking ahead to what the next thing is. So trying to push boundaries within the digital framework is so important. And whether that's sending things out to attendees ahead of time or creating actual online communities, so whether that's a Slack group, Facebook group, LinkedIn group, but really constantly trying to push boundaries, whether that's with the speakers, the content, the platform itself, trying something different. But I think that's, again, is a great way to cut through the static, is carefully thinking about how can you innovate in the digital space. So that sort of covers everything. Happy to take any questions.
Well, there's a few comments and questions coming in. I've actually just jumped over to LinkedIn. People were watching there, and people actually are still watching over there. So if you are watching on LinkedIn, then good afternoon to you. Natasha, lovely to see you. Natasha, who featured on What's Caught Our Eye a few weeks ago, the very first What's Caught Our Eye, in fact. Good afternoon. But the first comment that I picked out is from Sheila. I actually did an event with Sheila a couple of months ago. I spoke at one of her events, in fact. She said, "I'm investing heavily in my upcoming virtual expo. I justify that with the abiding thought of what's the cost to me if I don't invest? It's a must." And actually, that's a really interesting point. It's the what's the cost if I don't take these events forward, if I don't take my event virtual, and if I don't invest in the right technology, which a lot more people need to give consideration to.
Oh, absolutely. I think trying to pull off, particularly of your attendees, so you've traditionally done a live event, and it's coming up to that time where you need to do a virtual event for that community you already have. If they're used to exceptional experiences in the live world, trust me, they're going to have high expectations in the digital space. So it's so important that you have to be sort of meticulous in your approach and really focus on creating a kick-ass experience.
It's both, though, isn't it, Josh? It's still content as well. It's all about content and entertainment, and that you can't just have a brilliant platform. You've got to have both, unfortunately, to make our lives really tough.
And all the comms pre and post event. I've actually attended a couple of good events where if I hadn't have gone, then it was sort of the off chance that their email marketing, their social media presence wasn't on point, and I think that's because most people aren't dedicating a big enough team to create these highly skilled virtual events.
There's a couple more quick questions.
Do you mind if I just jump in, Neil? Because there's two kind of linked, one in LinkedIn and the other in Facebook. Josh, I think this is a phrase that you use, but Tom Morley's picked up. Afternoon, Tom. Nice to see you. Can you say more about rich data? And I think that was an expression that you used earlier.
Yeah, of course. So a lot of the analytics. So some of my favorite platforms will actually tell you which sessions, so how long people stayed on sort of the keynote sessions, the breakout sessions, which sponsors they went and saw. Did they, if it's on the same platform and you've got sort of multiple evening events or activations, which ones they went to. And again, the ones that are most popular and the session designs or links that receive the lowest drop-off rates, replicate that in your future events and really start perfecting your craft based on the analytics. I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to numbers, so that's genuinely what I find interesting. I'm going to make you pick up on this one as well, because Chi asked, what kind of data points do you find event organizers commonly capturing across the board? So number of attendees, so sort of the standard drop-off rates as well. So like you can tell, obviously, if you had 1,000 at the beginning, there's only 800 by the afternoon, then you've had 200 drop off. Trying to think which other big one. Standard ones like what ticket type they purchased as well. So that's another thing we've not touched upon is sort of tiered ticket pricing. So
I'll tell you another really useful, Josh, which we had with a client right at the beginning of lockdown, who we've done a few events with, was they on their first event looked at browser type that people were using. because they wanted to understand which browsers people were most commonly using. And as you would expect, most people were using Chrome because it's the one that most platforms are navigating us to. But it's actually an interesting data point to pick up on, because if you see lots of people are interacting with your event through Edge or through Firefox, then you need to, and the platform is specifying that you need to use Chrome for the best experience, then it's a really good way to adjust your event comms and direct people to the right information to make sure that they've got the right browser for your event. So that's quite a nice one to pick up on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even more simplistically than that, just saying the sessions and the speakers that were most popular as well,
Yep.
like depending on the type of event it is, then you can leverage them speakers or similar speakers from that same realm with future events. So it is that very much a strategically driven approach, and you do have to spend time analyzing the data, really immerse yourself in that data if you want to perfect the craft and improve your future virtual events.
Yeah.
Quick question. I saw a quick question on here. I know we've got to go in a second, but from Anna. Hi, Anna Wilson. Budgets are obviously still a factor to clients. We know and have experienced costs can be high in a fully serviced event. Basically she's asking, are there any, from your experience, what do you suggest for budget clients who want to do things on a budget? Is there a way to make an event look really good online, at a lower budget point than a higher one? What kind of things can you cut out? Have you any experience of, you must have had some clients that have come to you with a massive budget and others with a smaller one, I guess.
Yeah, I think ways to sort of reduce the costs. Pre-records is a great way to reduce the cost, but then let's take it out. One way to add some more dynamism though is you can cut the pre-records together with a live post, or have a mixture of live and pre-recorded, just because it can get quite expensive. And then it's just reducing production elements. So if you take out the lower thirds, animations, things like that, and rather send out sort of backdrops. So there are cheaper alternatives. Can't give away all the tricks. Feel free to email me.
Smoke and mirrors. And one quick question from Mohammed, who's been waiting really patiently on YouTube. What is the main and common challenges digital transformation and how to overcome it? I mean, that's a really broad question, but if you've got any, I guess if you've not done it and you just want to go into it, I guess watch some of our shows, I would say, Dom, and where we've covered some of the platforms that we've done, and do your research. But we'll have to have a think and see if there's any good places we can point people to have a look at as well.
You've just said something that I had picked up on already, because someone, and I think it was Kathy over on LinkedIn. Yeah, it was Kathy Joyce, I think, said that at the point that Josh had the different platforms on the screen where you could see the different percentages of use, she couldn't see the platform names. And it actually sparked a memory that our very first show, of course, Neil, was the transition to online events. And as part of that, me and the team here put together a list of online event platforms that were available for you to use for a whole variety of reasons. And I think at the beginning we put about 40 items on there with a little bit of information. And then we put that out to the group, and I know for a fact that sheet has been, that Google sheet has been accessed more than 4,000 times since, and there's probably about 70 or 80 platforms on there now. I'm actually going to reshare the link to that, because I think now would be a really good time to do that and start putting some of this information back out to people. Now we've got a bit more experience and knowledge.
We'll put it in the wrap up, Dom. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I've put it in the link below so that it's there. I've put it on LinkedIn. Perhaps you could do the same on YouTube, and then let's put it in the wrap up. But it's basically a list of all things online events. So it's everything from virtual event platforms, webinar platforms, like you name it, it's on there. If you've got information that you can add to that, then please add it on there. And please, please, please do not lock that document down. I've unlocked it so many times where people have locked it as a private document. It's public for a reason. We want people to use it, so please go on and use it.
I've just put that on YouTube, guys, so it's in the chat room there, so please go and have a look at it.
Yeah.
So Josh, we're in our usual time on a fashion. We're running over, so actually not too bad because we were a little bit late starting, so not too bad. But Josh, that's been amazingly useful. Really, thank you so much for sharing. You know, I know you don't want to give away all the secrets at EMC, but brilliant job. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. It's you know, a lot of really nice comments in the chat rooms and everything. So thanks very much, mate.
Oh no, thanks very much. I'll be sure to send around some great content for the team as well around virtual events, and feel free to share my contact info. Always happy just to answer any questions. And yeah, lovely speaking to you, gents, as always.
Thanks, Josh. Really appreciate you coming on. And I'm sure if you can come up with another topic, then we could have you back for another session at some point.
I look forward to it.
Cheers, Josh. Have a good day. Thanks, mate. Thanks. So, Dom, I'm gonna move on quite quickly because I know we are slightly late, and I know you are very busy at the moment.
10 minutes between people.
So next week coming up, we have got the amazing Karen McPhee from Visit Britain on the show. So we're going to be having a catch up with Karen, just what's been going on at Visit Britain. Say that, Dom.
Is that next week?
That's next week. Yes, yeah. Monday the 28th. That's Monday again.
When you told me she was coming on, that seemed like ages away.
Yeah. So we're going to be having Karen on, so that'll be really interesting. You know, if anybody knows Karen, knows she's a great speaker, so enthusiastic. So yeah, that's going to be a really good show, guys. Look out for that one. That's next Monday, same time next Monday. And then the week after, we got Jack Sayward from Sayward Marketing and Events. That's going to be really good show about the importance of a good phone book. But that's literally just a working title because we've got tons to talk about with him. And he's a great guy, really enthusiastic for the events industry. So looking forward to that. And lots of people coming on the show as well in the next few weeks after that. So watch this space. So, yeah. Dom, how are you?
I just want to say a couple of things, actually. We had, I saw Amy Nicholas, who I've now connected with on LinkedIn. She was the first time with DW Live today. And although we're 30 episodes in, DW Live is still new to some people. Please go back, right back to the beginning. You can find them all on YouTube, which is at the Delegate Wranglers. Go back and find all of the content, not just for our benefit, but actually because we put some really good shows out, huge amount of information. So if you're stepping into the virtual world for the first time, pretty much everything that you could want to know, understand, learn has been covered in some way, shape or form now in terms of conversation slides or whatever it is. So do go
about 40 hours worth of stuff on there as well.
So, tons. Plus the overruns.
Yeah. Make sure, guys, as well. Make sure you follow us on the Live Hive. I'm going to put that link on there as well in a second.
Yes.
Subscribe to that, and then you won't miss a show. We'll let you know. We'll give you, advance warning when everything's coming up, and you also get, most importantly, the bonus extra content that only you guys will get. We don't put it anywhere else, so it's only on those links, so on those emails. So, and very last quickly, Don, if we've got time, the We Make Events campaign. We've got lots of stuff going on the 30th of September, so make sure you check them out. And also, we're part of the One Industry, One Voice campaign. We're fully behind that. They've got a Just Giving page where they're raising money to create a fully professional PR campaign to support the event industry. Lots of information, guys. Just drop me a line if you need anything or search for it on the group.
Okay, we're going to go because we've got 10 seconds. I'm going to say goodbye. We will see you next
Monday.
It's next Monday now. Next Monday at see the music finish, Neil. Your talking was just too long. I thought we had that time perfectly.
You were talking, man, when it stopped, not me.
Listen to that, Neil. Absolute silence, because the music that I have playing in the background to see us out of the show, you talked for too long.
I talk for too long. Flipping heck. There's a first. Right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for everything. See you next Monday.
It's been a pleasure. See you next Monday with Karen McPhee. Thank you very much for all your comments. It's been a pleasure to do the show. We'll see you all next week. Goodbye.